Even after a year of living by myself, I am still a terrible cook. This has led to a lot of boxed pasta and sandwiches in my diet. But the worst part is that I could never understand why I was such a terrible cook. I followed the directions to the letter, so what was I getting wrong? Sometimes when I made pasta, it turned out terrible. The sauce separated into an oily mess, and the noodles absorbed most of it, making a dry pasta. Well, it turns out that there's a reason I'm such a terrible cook. It's partially because I don't have enough experience, which takes some time to develop. But it's also because I don't know the techniques of a good cook. So in order to save some of you from ruining your pasta like I do, I will be teaching you how to make stovetop mac and cheese from scratch by first explaining how to make the noodles, then the sauce, and I'll be showing you the reasons why you might be messing up your mac and cheese. First is cooking the actual pasta, and these are the ingredients I used. I use traditional elbow macaroni noodles, but it doesn't matter too much which type you use. You can pour this cheese sauce over elbow, bow tie, penne, shell, etc. The different surface areas and textures of the pasta are what affect how well the sauce sticks to it. But if your sauce isn't oily, then it's not likely to slip off your pasta. So step 1, bring about a gallon of water to a rolling boil, add a tablespoon of salt, and then add 1 pound of macaroni. You use a lot of water so that the pasta has room to move around and expand, so you use your bigger pot. Cooking directions always say to cook the pasta al dente, but what does that mean exactly? Al dente is Italian for to the teeth, and it's when the pasta is not hard nor soft, but just firm enough. You boil the pasta for 6 to 7 minutes, stirring every once in a while, and then you taste test every 30 seconds to see if it's al dente. You want your pasta al dente because if it's undercooked, then the undersaturated pasta will want to absorb your sauce, making a dry mac and cheese. And if it's overcooked, then your oversaturated pasta will fall apart and become mushy. So after it's reached al dente, drain the pasta immediately so it doesn't continue cooking. Now is the complicated part, making the cheese sauce. You will need the following ingredients, and for this part, it's important that you don't have a lumpy sauce. You start by making a roux, which is equal parts flour and butter. You melt 3 tablespoons of butter on medium heat, and then add in 4.5 tablespoons of flour, stirring constantly for about a minute. It's best to use a whisk to also break up the lumps. Next, you make a bechamel sauce, which is roux plus milk. You incrementally stir in 3 cups of milk into your roux. Remember to use warm milk for this to avoid also making clumps. You simmer this for about 10 minutes to thicken your sauce, stirring occasionally. Then you add in 2.5 cups of your pick of cheese, and a variety of cheeses is usually best. You want to have soft cheese for a creamy sauce, and you want to avoid having too much aged cheeses to avoid a grainy sauce. It is also hard to work with aged cheeses, which often become oily. I used 1.5 cups of mozzarella, 1/2 cup of aged cheddar, and 1/2 cup of Parmesan. I actually got this ratio from an online cheese calculator, which I did not know was a thing. So if you have only some types of cheeses in your house, try using this to figure out which ratios to use. Stir in your cheese a cup at a time, only adding more once it has fully melted. And then stir in your seasoning, which is 2 tablespoons of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. But you can really use any seasoning, garlic powder, paprika, onion powder. Just remember to taste test in order to avoid over-seasoning your sauce. You will now have a smooth, silky sauce that you can stir into your pasta. In conclusion, cooking is sometimes a more detailed process than what an online recipe might tell you. While I can't give you the skills of an experienced cook, I can give you the tips of one. Be careful not to over or undercook your pasta. Avoid a lumpy sauce by using warm milk and whisking. And not all cheese combinations are easy to work with, so be careful. I hope this speech has taught my fellow bad cooks ways of not messing up your pasta. Thank you.